Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah, man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, so it's just me, the doctor, giving you updates for today, and Charles Bishop, as well as AD Drew, giving some love. With that, welcome to episode 611 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, radio show and podcast, a show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small. From the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-hosts for today, Charles Bishop and AD Drew. We're filming from our home studios, sending a signal live, KSOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper, multi-Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, Sam Andrews Black Fantasy Football League Wild Card Weekend Draft will begin this evening. So it's going to be fascinating to see what that looks like. Shout out to all the members of the Sam Andrews Black Fantasy Football League, including Ralph Cooper. See if he continues to get it done. Shout out to some of those folks, Willie Earlis Jr., pharmacist that has retired, alumni of Texas Southern University. Shout out to him and all the other members out there of the Black Fantasy Football League, Sam Andrews Black Fantasy Football League, I will add. With that being said, Charles Bishop, how you doing today?
Doing well, Doc. Getting ready to start this new semester, so getting in the groove here, if you will. But we got some games on tap as some women are starting to tip off here in a few minutes. But we already have a score in from earlier today.
What score? Go ahead and don't hold out since you're going to tease the folks. Go ahead. For those that may not been able to catch it and realize the game started early. Go ahead.
Yeah, this game was moved up because of the inclement weather coming into Mississippi. But Alcorn, they knocked off Alabama State, the women, 61-54 today. Big game today for Alcorn. Destiny's Brown, 14 points and 9 rebounds. Also, Nakia Cheatham. She had 10 points and 7 rebounds for the Lady Braves, who notched their first SWAC win on the season.
Good stuff, good stuff. When you look at it from that perspective, I was going to ask you, are you keeping warm? But you put that out there where you see weather is already affecting folks across the country, particularly as we had a game canceled last week in the MEAC, and now we have one that's pushed up. Even hearing thoughts that some people will go back to a more traditional schedule, trying to get beyond the weather to Saturday and Monday, both doubleheaders for men's and women's, versus trying to do the women's showcase, as I like to call it now, on Thursdays, and Monday showcase for the men. With that being said, let me go to you, AD Drew. Are you able to stay warm? How are you doing?
As long as I'm not at work, I'm able to stay warm. Just like you don't discover that your AC is not working properly until it gets hot. You don't discover that your heat is not working properly until it gets below 40. And with this week, with it being below 30, especially in the evenings, and I'm usually one of the first people in my office, if not the first person in the office. It's cold out in there, bro. We've had, unfortunately, 30-year-old facility. We've had some some issues with our boiler, and it's not pleasant.
Working through it. So you have your outside clothes on inside to make sure you
I did not take my skull cap off the entire day today. How about that?
There it is.
And I went into a couple of rooms that I had to put gloves on to go into those rooms. We'll just leave it at that.
I've seen it before. Yeah, I've understood when
it happens,
down, it goes down.
And that's just not an HBCU thing. That happens everywhere, you know.
Yeah,
this is one of those. If you did not need to be at work today, you work remote. That's all I'm gonna say.
I got it. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting, educational, consulting, and data analytics. With that being said, let me go back to you, Charles. What's on your mind with the news of the day? What has you thinking twice about the HBCU world?
Yeah, let's start off with some news here from HBCUGameDay.com. As ESPN extends the deal with Jordan Reed, ESPN has solidified its commitment to one of its rising stars, former HBCU quarterback Jordan Reed, with a new contract extension. Reed, who played quarterback at North Carolina Central, has quickly become a prominent figure in ESPN's NFL draft coverage, showcasing his expertise and deep understanding of the game. Reed will continue to serve as a key member of ESPN's year-round NFL draft team, providing analysis and scouting insights through ESPN.com and ESPN+. So big news for Jordan Reed in terms of contract extension.
Good stuff. Anytime you get a contract extension in the world of contracts, that's always a good thing. So shout out to Jordan Reed, HBCU, North Carolina Central University, getting it done on ESPN. I remember the first time seeing him do some work as he had the North Carolina Central Eagles football helmet in the background. Got me looking twice. Certainly was excited for him. He does some really good work. And this is the time of the year where he really gets to shine as you start hearing that expectation with the year-round NFL draft, as they've made that an event. And as the season ends and coaches get dismissed and you start to move through the playoffs, you start to gear some ideas of who's up on free agent and stuff like that. It's just slowly trickling out there, obviously, and it will do an uptick. But now he gets to go truly make his money, as they say, as this is the time of the year where he really gets into it. With that being said, let me go back to you, 80 Drew. What's on your mind?
First, I'm going to start with a PSA before I go into my news of the day. And my PSA is HBCU basketball fans, due to the weather this week in the Southeast, which is definitely affecting two of our conferences, that being the Southwestern Athletic Conference and the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. Please check your favorite team's social media and or website to keep up with games, as games are being switched around, moved at the last minute. Like Charles said, I didn't even know that there was a game that had already been played today. So please stay up with that, because number one, we don't want you on the road. We want you on the road to go cheer on your favorite team, but we don't want you on the road if it's not safe. So, and a lot of these athletic administrators are taking due diligence to make sure that these games are play safe, not only for the student athletes, but the fans and the staffs that have to attend these games. Now,
well said.
Now that I've got that out of the way, and the only reason I think about that, because that's literally what I've been doing all day today, is throwing out different times where if we play and if we don't play, and days and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I don't know if I'm excited or nervous about this person that I'm getting ready to talk about, y'all. And that's Howard freshman Blake Harper. MEAC Player of the Week, and Rookie of the Week. And of course, that's presented by Coca-Cola. And just for full disclosure, Norfolk graduate guard Brian Moore was the Defensive Player of the Week. But let's talk about Harper, man. And the only reason I'm nervously excited about this is because in 10 days, my Morehouse Maroon Tigers will be playing the Bison of Howard on ESPN Plus. So I get to see this firsthand. And I will definitely come back with a report of let's see, too much hype, not enough hype, or right amount of height. I'll let y'all know. Harper, 6'5" freshman, tied his career high of 34 points to lead the Bison to a 194 victory over Delaware State in the MEAC Conference opener. He added 6 boards, two dimes, and 1 steal while knocking back 10 of 12 shots from the field. 10 of 12? Wow. 3 or 4 from behind the arc, and 11-11 from the charity stripe. They don't call it free 99 for nothing. Against Yale, Harper had a measly 16 points with 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and a block. You know, just an average stat line. So for the week, that's 25 points, 6 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and a steal, and 1.5 steal. So I'm nervously excited to see this young freshman, this young phenom who barely has hair on his chin, and see what he can really do against my team in 10 days.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I want to hear your report in terms of your thought. Obviously, all of us will get a chance to watch it themselves, and we'll see if our report matches your report, particularly from a live perspective. But he certainly at this point is doing his thing. Kudos to him. You talked a little bit about the MEAC updates and basketball honors. On the men's side, we have it on the women's side. I'll jump in there with Kyla Bryant, North Carolina Central Graduate Guard of the MEAC Player of the Week, getting it done in many ways. Fellow Eagle Shakira Foster earned Rookie of the Week honor, while teammate Morgan Callahan earned Defensive Player of the Week honors to match that, as you talked about Howard freshman guard Blake Harper, Norfolk State graduate guard Brian Moore Jr., as they earn offensive and defensive, player of the Rookie of the Week and Player of the Week. So as you talked about, freshman guard Blake Harper is showing how solid he is, taking 2 awards in the same week. Charles, you have any updates in terms of SWAC Players of the Week this week?
Not on SWAC Players of the Week, but I do have some just updated scores that are going on from games that have tipped off. Texas Southern on top of Mississippi Valley 17-10. That's earlier here in the fourth quarter, 3:22 left in the first quarter of that game. Alabama A&M up on Jackson State 6-2. That's also early with about a 4:41 left to go in the game. The other 2 games tonight, they will be tipping off or the other game I should say, Bethune-Cookman at Southern will be tipping off at 6:30. So we'll be keeping up with that.
Good stuff. Good stuff. When you talk about in the mix of what's going on at the Division I level, let's give some updates as you talk about that. You also have those non-conference games, if we call it the independents, as they're in the mix getting things done. You have that in the Ohio Valley. This week, when you talk about Tennessee State, they are down early to Lindenwood, big, 43-27 with 4:20 in the third period left. So that's a tough one to see going down if you're a fan of Tennessee State. Tigers, obviously, they still do the double hitters. So you have the men coming up after that. So that's just an update since Charles is providing those updates. The women for the CA, they play tomorrow. Just to stay with Shivery, that's Hampton is on the road at Elon, and North Carolina A&T is on over there with Delaware. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like from that perspective. Let me see if I can give you a quick update on the men's side of what that looks like as they play today. You have Hampton hosting Campbell. They're up 10-9. That is 13 minutes left in the first half. And Delaware is up over A&T as both of the HBC programs host. But Delaware is getting early lead on A&T. The Aggies 14-11 with 14:47 left in the first half. So those are your updates from that side of things. Anything else you had to point out, Troy?
Yeah, really quickly, I do have the SWAC Women's Basketball Weekly Honors pulled up. If I can just go through those real quick.
Sure.
Alabama State's Cordesia Harris and Alabama A&M's Darian Burgett and Texas Southern's Treasure Thompson. They were the SWAC Women's Basketball Players of the Week for their performances this past week. Let's take a look at Harris real quick, or Deja Harris from Alabama State. She posted a pair of double-doubles to lead Alabama State to wins over Arkansas Pine Bluff and Mississippi Valley. She scored 19 points and 13 rebounds against UAPB, and then went for 28 and 16 versus Mississippi Valley. Darian Burgett from Alabama A&M was the leading offensive contributor for Alabama A&M during their conference outing against Valley and UAPB. She averaged a team-high 14.5 points per game, scoring a total of 28 over a 2-game span. And then Treasure Thompson from Texas Southern. She was huge for the Lady Tigers in their wins over Southern and Grambling. She averaged 11.5 points to go along with 6.5 rebounds, and she helped the TSU Lady Tigers start off to a 2-0 start in league play. So those are your SWAC Women's Weekly Basketball Honors.
Before we go to break, Doc, can I give you an updated score from the CIAA on the women's side?
Oh, yeah, please. I always love those updated scores. That's our free way in this first segment to give our tech-related updates. Right. So we'll do that throughout the show.
Yeah, this is actually a final. Bowie State defeated Shaw 56-47. That occurred earlier today. You know, they're on the East Coast, so they play a little bit earlier than we're traditionally used to. Mm-hmm. Ziana Ross Barnes led Shaw and scored with 12 points. Deja Atkins also scored in double digits with 11, but leading the way for Bowie State, Maya Garner with 15 points. Here's a double-double line for you: 15 points and 16 rebounds. Nice. So that's a nice little stat line like that. I like that one. And Destiny Riles also scored in double digits for Bowie State. She had 11 points and 6 rebounds, along with Ayasha Thomas, who had 11 points and two rebounds. And just since we're doing updates, let me give you a couple of the scores of games that are going on right now in the CIAA. That would be, let's see, we've got Johnson C. Smith at Elizabeth City. This game is about to go final. Elizabeth City 66, Johnson C. Smith 44. There's only 17 seconds left in that game, so I think we can give ECSU the victory in that one. And also, with a minute to go in the fourth quarter, Virginia State 82, Livingstone 63. Those scores are on the women's side in the CIAA.
Good stuff. With that being said, join BCSN in support of the local youth in Oakland, California to see HBCU sports culture in action. Your donation of $20 or more will allow BCSN to purchase tickets for a local boy or girl to attend the HBCU NBA Classic on February 15th. Donate now via Cash App. That's money sign MYJBN MyBCSN. Again, that's MYJBN MyBCSN. Let's expose tomorrow's generation to the HBCU culture so that we can keep our HBCU traditions going. Donations will be accepted through January 26th. I added a caveat. We have one person that has taken us up on it. You can donate $20 or more. I said I would match the first 5 donors of $20 up to $100. And so we have 4 people left. If you can do this before Saturday, I will donate an extra, up to an extra 5 tickets, if you would, for $100. So we got one person that took us on it, and we want to thank him for doing that. But we have time for the viewers. We get 4 more on board. We'd love to see it happen before the end of the show. So let's see if we can get those out there. And let us know if you donated. You can put it in the chat, and we will certainly recognize you. With that being said, let's go to our first break. Come back on the other side. Let's get into some CIAA talk specifically in regards to records and get some AD thoughts in terms of what's going on. We'll let Charles jump in there and ask his question or provide some insight as well. We'll break down some of these records, who's on a win streak, and then we'll let AD do his thing. With that being said, let's take our first break and come back on the other side.
Looking for the ultimate cultural experience of 2025? The Zora Outdoor Festival of the Arts is where you need to be. From January 31st to February 2nd, Eatonville, Florida will come alive with incredible live performances from the Levert Experience and the Bar Cave. Immerse yourself in interactive art. Shop from over 80 vendors. Take a journey through history with a new virtual tour app. And enjoy family-friendly STEM activities. Plus, don't miss the unforgettable R&B tribute to the legends, honoring talents such as Whitney Houston, Marvin Gaye, and Luther Vandross. This is more than a festival. It's a celebration of Eatonville's rich cultural heritage. Visit zorafestival.org for tickets.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia from She Say Sports. Make sure to check us out every Friday morning at 9 a.m. on Black College Sports Network, YouTube, and Linktree. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page.
Morehouse College and Tuskegee University men's basketball teams were selected to compete in the 2025 NBA HBCU Classic presented by AT&T. The fourth annual NBA HBCU Classic will be played in the Bay Area as part of NBA All-Star 2025 and will once again celebrate the rich traditions, on-court athleticism, and commitment to excellence of the HBCU community. For tickets, visit nba.com/all-star.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Let's get back into this second segment and let's jump into the CIAA on the women's side. As you may or may not realize, the CIAA still does the two divisions. In terms of basketball. So you have 6 in each of the divisions. Let's start with the Northern Division, which consists of Virginia Union. Virginia Union is at the top, sitting at 10-3 overall. They are 4-0 in conference play. In terms of that, you hadn't had any division games looked at this point in the season. But Virginia Union's, the Lady Panthers, are on a 6-game win streak. As of release of this update, playing some really good basketball. But right behind them, literally in terms of one game back, is Bowie State, the Lady Bulldogs. They have a 1-game win streak, so they kind of bouncing back after playing some good basketball. They're 11-7 overall, sitting at 5-1 in terms of their record of the season, just behind Virginia Union. And then I'll go with the third one sitting there with Virginia State. These are the folks that are usually in the mix at the top of the Northern Division, so not much surprise there. The Virginia State is sitting there at 9-3, the 3-1 in terms of their conference record, and they have a 2-game win streak. So with that being said on that side, let's jump in a little bit on the Northern Division CIAA, particularly with those top 3 teams, AD Drew. What is your thoughts in terms of how Virginia Union has played thus far? Can they push through and hold things out, or will you see Bowie State, Virginia Union, or even one of these teams that are sitting down there? Lincoln, Pennsylvania City 4-2, Elizabeth City at 3-2. Bluefield State is struggling. They're 0-4 in terms of the conference race. Do you see any of these teams maybe getting back in the mix, or are you sticking with Virginia Union to push forward, even with tough matchups with Bowie State and Virginia State on the way?
Yeah, Doc, I'm gonna be honest with you. Especially since you still have the divisional play in the CIAA, until these teams actually start going heads up with each other, it's really going to be tough to tell in that Northern Division. I mean, like you said, the 2 Virginia schools and at Bowie State battling it out, but of late, Lincoln of PA has had that pedigree, remember
True.
a couple of years ago, they knocked off Delaware State. I think that might have been the COVID year, and maybe even the year after COVID. They knocked off Delaware State. So that's going to be the team that I'm still, although they have lost their coach, they still had that tradition of winning there of late at Lincoln. So if there's one team that can definitely get back into this mix, I'm looking at Lincoln of PA as being one of those teams that can get back into the mix because they play good ball up there. So that's the team to keep an eye out on.
Good stuff there from that side. Charles, from your perspective, anything surprise you out of the CIAA Northern Division? I know it's early, but even at this point, anything surprised you?
I mean, the usual cast of characters, Virginia Union, Virginia State being right there in the mix. Not too shocking. I was going to ask you, AD, but I think you answered about Lincoln, Pennsylvania. Like, who was a team, a dark horse team, or a team that has some talent that can challenge up there in that upper echelon in the Northern Division?
Yeah, that would be the one team that I would say don't count out. Even, and it may not be until tournament time till we hear from Lincoln. But
is there a player or a couple of players that we should start keeping an eye out for with regards to their play on the court?
I just lost a name. Young lady who. Anytime you get somebody who get a 15-15 game, if I could pull
that double.
Yeah.
While you're looking at that, let's look at the Southern Division, and you can come back and talk about players for both divisions that may stay out. When we look at the Southern Division, you have Fayetteville State sitting at 7-6 overall, Claflin sitting at 7-6, as well as Livingston, but they dropped all the way down to 4-9. So really, when you talk about early on and just overall record 7-6, it gets a little more jumbled up when you talk about conference records. You have Fayetteville State 3-2, Claflin at 3-3. So in terms of the top of the records and who's shining, it looks like the Northern Division is getting a little more play. Obviously, as we said, division play will make it a little more interesting, but early on, Southern Division is taking a little bit on the chin, but still, Fayetteville State, Claflin, Livingston are at the top of it. You have followed them that are behind it and trying to fight their way up. Shaw, Johnson C. Smith with Winston-Salem State struggling, much like Johnson C. Smith, both at 0-4 in conference play. Talk about Fayetteville State, Claflin. Is it the indication in terms of the record that they're not where Virginia State, Bowie State, which most of us would glean that would be the case? But give us a little insight in terms of what's going on in the Southern Division of the play. And then if you like, you could add whether you want to add a player or two in terms of that mix.
Yeah, Claflin is one of those traditional powers, and I say traditional because it's not like they've been in the CIAA for 100 years like some of the other teams. But when we talk about lately, Claflin has been one of those teams that has been doing something. One thing I like about Claflin is they're only giving up 56 points a game, Dr. Cavil. So defense travels. Defense is always louder than that band that's playing when you're on the road. Right. You can shut teams down with your defense. And when we're talking about Claflin, you've got Nia Morris, who's putting up just shy of 19 points per game. Here's the problem. She's the only person in double digits for Claflin. So your next lead scorer for Claflin is Janelle Sample putting up 9.4 a game. So somebody else is going to have to take some of that scoring load for Claflin in order for them to do what we have seen Claflin do in the past. But as Charles can tell you, for a 3-4 game stretch, all you need is one player to get hot.
Yeah.
And they can carry.
Yeah.
Somebody who's putting up 19 in the regular season, that's 24-25 in the tournament time, but it's not the 24-25 points. It's the attention that they draw, which opens up other players that gives a team like that a chance.
Charles, I'm going to ask you that point with Fayetteville State and Claflin. As I said, overall 7-6, both teams sitting at 3-2 and 3-3 respectively in conference play. Nothing to really turn your head on. Do you see either one of those teams being able to make a push, go on a run? And if so, which one and why?
I would think probably Fayetteville State. And we were just talking about it. Yeah, you get a player or two who kind of gets hot and can kind of sustain the offensive workload for 2-3 games, and it kind of propels you going into the following week. So yeah, I could see Fayetteville staying right there in the mix in terms of being in the top tier of teams there.
Let's stay with the CIAA on the men's side. Not a lot of clarity here. Let's just be frank. You have Shaw sitting at 8-7, excuse me. Claflin sitting at 9-7. Shaw is sitting at 3-2 and 3-3. Seems like I just said that with the women's side, so very similar in terms of what that looks like. Different teams, the Fayetteville State and Claflin, and Shaw and Claflin, but not a lot of difference going on. Records are not anything that would get you excited. So, AD Drew, what are your thoughts in terms of Shaw, Claflin in this mix? Can any of these teams? I'm gonna ask you this question and come with Charles back with the same kind of thing. Either one of these teams, in your opinion, do they have the talent or coaching to kind of craft, a couple of wins together? Can they go on a run? If so, which of the two do you see doing it in the Southern Division of the CIAA for the men?
One stat that I like to look at, Dr. Cavil, especially early in the season, I think one of the better stats to look at is scoring margin. And when you look at scoring margin, Claflin margin is about just shy of 6 points a game. I think like 5.6, 5.7 points per game. So that means that they're playing a lot of close, competitive ball games. But when you take a look at a Shaw, if I can get my page to open up, because I looked at this earlier. Internet wants to run. So I don't know if it's my internet or their website. I'm gonna blame it on their website. I ain't gonna blame it
on the weather. How about that?
I can blame it on that. But we going back to it. But when you take a look at Shaw, Dr. Cavil, their scoring margin is only 2.4 points. So a lot of close games. What does that mean? You better be hitting your free throws if you're a team like Shaw, because 1-2 missed free throws would cost you a ball game. And I'm going to jump on the soapbox for a minute. I'm sorry, because I just saw a team that held their opponent to 31% from the field, 24% from the arc, and lose a game by 7.
Couldn't hit free throw.
It wasn't that they couldn't hit free throws. When your opponent goes 21 or 23 from the charity stripe,
yeah.
I ain't gonna call no names, but I think you'll figure out who I'm talking about in a little bit later.
Yeah. They could hit free throws.
Charles, why I got you? Shaw, Claflin. Can any of them go on the run?
Let me go with the Shaw Bears. I think the Shaw Bears can go on a run. Yeah.
I think you're being nice. You could have said neither. Virginia State and Lincoln, Pennsylvania. It gets a little more exciting when you get into the Northern Division.
Yeah,
overall, you have 9-4, 10-5, and you even have Bluefield State making a statement on the men's side. They sit at 9-5, and really we need to include Elizabeth City State that sits at 8-5. What's really interesting though is between the top two. Virginia State and Lincoln, Pennsylvania both sit at 4-0 and 5-0 respectively in terms of what they're doing in conference play. You got a couple of losses as you get past that going into those teams. And again, this is intra-divisional matchup. So when you get into division play, that Virginia-Lincoln game that is set up for January the 26th will be fascinating when you see a matchup if those teams can stay on the trajectory of being undefeated coming into the game. Conference play would certainly be interesting. But even if one drops one, but along the way, you still look forward to that matchup in terms of what they're doing early. Charles, let me look at you in terms of those teams, Virginia State, Lincoln, Pennsylvania. Do Do you give an edge this early to one of them, or are you just waiting for that January 26th matchup to really tell the story of what we can look maybe going down the stretch if everybody stays healthy?
Yeah, I'm already one step ahead of you. I'm already looking at January 26th. That's kind of where I'm edging out toward, because I think just so far it's just too early to tell which is the fastest thoroughbred in terms of Virginia State and Lincoln. But January 26th, it gives me the first look-see into that.
Good stuff. Both of them are on 6-game winning streaks. Let you know how they playing. But then you talk about those other teams at 9-5, 8-5. Bluefield State, Elizabeth City State, respectively, have won 2 straight games. Giving them a shout out. So, AD Drew, overall record, you can look at all 4 of those. Early on, you look at Virginia State, Lincoln, Pennsylvania. What direction you're going in terms of the Northern Division of the CIAA on the men's side of who to keep your eyes on beyond that first matchup between Virginia State and Lincoln, Pennsylvania on January 26th?
Well, once again, scoring margin is my go-to stat early, my go-to data point. Virginia State, 8.5 points margin of victory. Lincoln, PA, 4.1 points margin of victory. You know what 8.5 points says to me as a basketball nerd? That says blowouts. That says you're getting multiple blowouts when you're close to that 10, 12 point margin of victory. That means you're really putting up some points and you're playing some good defense. So once again, you're thinking Virginia State, but Lincoln, PA is giving up under 70 points a game. And we know when it comes, especially men's basketball, that is such a magic threshold. Can you hold your teams in the 60s consistently? Lincoln and PA does. And once again, just like in football, defense travels. Defense is about effort. Go with the team for the effort. Because that team that likes to put up all those points, when they shots aren't going in, sometimes they forget how to play the other parts of the game, the rebounding, the defense, the other things that go along with the game. A team that focuses on defense first, they tend, you rarely see a team have a bad defensive night. You should have teams see bad offensive nights and lose. Team can don't have bad defensive nights and still lose.
We got WSSU Ram in the house talking about both of the orange and blue, giving some. I don't know if there's love coming from a Ram, but I'm not sure.
Trying to read between the lines on that one.
You're right, so I'm gonna leave it at that. Shout out to Carol giving us some love on the show today. We have Walter Harley. He talking about y'all guys soft down there in the South, changing.
Yep.
He mentioned expected snow for Saturday. 2-hour school delay tomorrow. No school since December 20th. So they doing it a little different there. So I want to shout out Walter saying, man, get out of here with all that stuff.
Man, anything below 50, it is woo.
Yeah.
My
Let's
Lord.
take our next break. We'll come back on the other side and talk a little bit about the SIAC in terms of who's getting down and getting it done early in the season as things get done. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Greetings, Panthers. My name is Roland Austin, and I'm one of the directors at the 1876 Athletic Foundation. The 1876 Athletic Foundation was formed to promote the success of all 343 student athletes. Our overall goal is to fund scholarships for all of our student athletes. We ask that you help us in achieving this goal by donating to the 1876 Athletic Foundation via the QR code below or 1876.foundation. Your generous donation will help us continue to assist the needs of all of our Panther athletes. Thanks, and go Panthers.
At AutoMasters LLC, our mission is to serve our community by providing quality automobiles at affordable prices. All of our vehicles are inspected and certified to offer you the confidence in knowing you have a quality vehicle. Our goal is to provide you with a seamless process and positive experience for your automobile purchase. Financing recommendations and specific vehicle inquiries are available at your request. You can find us at www.automasters06.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please feel free to contact Terrence Miles at 601-927-7794. And oh yeah, tell him Sonia sent you.
Tickets are on sale now for the 4th annual NBA HBCU Classic presented by AT&T, featuring Morehouse College and Tuskegee University. Don't miss this action-packed event happening at NBA All-Star 2025 and filled with competitive matchup and marching band performances celebrating HBCU pride. See you in the Bay.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Before we get to the SIC with some of these records and getting some good talk here, starting with the women, and we'll get into some men talk as well. It looks like it might be a tough season for the Tennessee State Lady Tigers. The women basketball program trails 63-40 to Lindenwood with 5:02 left in the fourth. With that being said, let me shift to you, Charles, in regards to some updates you may have from the SWAC side of things.
Yeah, let's take a look at some of the SWAC scores. Alabama A&M and Jackson State are locked at 20. Alabama A&M on the road in Jackson tonight. Texas Southern on top of Mississippi Valley, 35-22. That's with 51 seconds left to go before half. And things just underway in Baton Rouge as the Southern Jaguars, they are on top of Bethune Cookman, 10-4 in that game. So that one's just getting underway.
Great update there. Man, those lady Texas Southern Tigers, the women of Texas Southern, the Tigers, as they like to say.
Hey!
On this board, boy, they're looking to try to make it 3 in a row. That's pretty nice, the way to start things off. Certainly couldn't be any better. With that being said, A&T on the men's side in the Coastal, A&T is down by 10 as they trail Delaware 44-34. At home, that's 2 minutes left in the first half. Hampton is up over Campbell at home 30-16. That's with 1:13 left in the first half. Both of those games are broadcast as well. We get an update with that as we go back to the SIC on the women's side. Let's start with the West. We're going to start a little further away from home for AD Drew. With the West side of things, we'll give you those updates in terms of what that looks like in the conference play. Overall record, you have Central State 7-5 as you go up to the Midwest, getting it down there. A little bit surprising, maybe early with Miles just at 8-3 overall. Central State is 6-1 in terms of what they are getting done in conference play. While Miles is just behind them by a game, 5-2 in terms of the standing. Those that are in looking through the window there, if you would, Elaine at 4-3, as well as Spring Hill at 4-3 in terms of what took place. If you look at the last 10, which is always an interesting stat for basketball, Central State is just 5-5 in the last 10. But Miles, while they're just one game behind, they're actually 8-2 in their last 10 games. So they've played some good basketball overall, stumbled a little bit in terms of conference play. So let's go to Drew there. What are your thoughts in terms of what you're hearing and seeing from Central State and Miles out of that Western division of the SIC on the women's side of things?
I'll tell you what was interesting was the fact that Miles lost to Clark Atlanta, and this goes back to last week on last Thursday. Although I have not seen this version of the Miles Golden Bears as of yet this year, I have seen Clark Atlanta play some ball, and I know we haven't gotten to the East, but Clark Atlanta beating Miles was kind of a statement in the conference because Miles with the last year's Player of the Year, Ayanna Williams, is still on the team. You know, she's a nightmare for a lot of these teams out here. She's only about 5'2", but she's quick as lightning, as they say, and is not afraid to shoot the ball. So I think that's something that's interesting. But I did say she was 5'2". Did I say she was 5'2"? Clark Atlanta's guards are a little bit bigger than her 5'6", 5'7" at the guard spot. So maybe that might be the key to beating a team like a Miles if you've got big, faster guards. You can't have big and slow. You gotta have big and fast, and you gotta keep those Golden Bears off the boards because they hit the boards hard. And one thing I would tell you, you better be prepared to handle the ball for 40 minutes against the Golden Bears because they're gonna press you. They're gonna full court press you. They're gonna half court trap you. They're gonna do some junk stuff to you. You know, this is a well-coached team. I'm not worried about them, long story short.
Charles, it seems like you have a question that you want to follow up with Drew. Go ahead.
Well, I got an opportunity to catch that Miles Tuskegee experience in terms of calling that game, but I just wanted to ask, if I'm a visiting team, what place don't I want to go on the road? I mean, it is chaos.
That's one of them.
Okay.
But you definitely don't want to go to Fairfield, Alabama, especially at night and play. It's something about that. I'm trying to be politically correct when I say this. That is an intimidating place to go after dark. We'll just say it like that. Just navigating to the campus, parking your car or parking your team bus, and getting there to play. Then when you get on the court, the people are literally sitting on top of you.
They are.
You know, it's a jewel box basketball arena. And they only got about 10 rows of seats, Dr. Cavil, and maybe about 12 on the other side. And for some reason, it seems like you can't walk behind the visiting team bench without bumping into a player's chair. You know, it's one of those places that are that type. Other places that are just like that. Clark Atlanta is another place that's just when the students are there, and that place is
nice.
That's a tough place. Coach Green says it's not that bad. Coach Green, maybe because of who you coach, I happen to coach the rival, so I maybe I'm looking at it from different color lenses when I was with the rival. But speaking of Coach Green,
plus he has his tough hat on, and we're gonna switch over to them because that's what Coach Green is waiting on to talk about. Cavil Waters, which I'm gonna go to you.
I want to talk about that. I want to talk about Adams Jenkins though.
Exactly. I'm gonna let you go on, but I just want to give a highlights of the Eastern Division so you can go in and do your thing. Shout out to Coach Green doing his. As you have the top of that division, are actually tied between Clark Atlanta and Edward Waters. Coach Tiger, Coach Green and his Tigers, the Edward Waters, are sitting at 5-2 as well. Clark Atlanta Panthers are sitting there at 11-4, 8-3 for the Tigers in terms of that. And you even have Allen sitting at 9-5. They're 4-3 in the conference play. So those are three teams that are kind of in the mix in terms of what that looks like. So fascinating to see how it goes down in terms of that. I almost had to catch myself and started to ask about Morehouse. Just I instantly thought about Drew, and then I realized that's right. No, they don't do it on the women's side. And Spelman previously had Division III basketball, but they don't even do that any longer. With that being said, do what you were going to do in terms of talking about Coach Green and Clark Atlanta in the West, the East Division of SIAC.
The Adams Jenkins Center in Jacksonville, Florida. Another place that's a little intimidating to pull into. We'll just leave it like that. But when the band is there, the students are there, and Prez is down there sitting in the front row. And those who don't know, they call him Prez. It's Dr. A. Zachary Faison. It's down there sitting on the front row, giving the officials hell, which he does better than any president that I've ever seen.
Wow.
That's it's not intimidating, but that's a fun environment to be in down there at Edward Waters, especially when their teams are good. And I'm hoping Coach Green and Coach Jackson can get those Tigers over the hump. You know, I can root for a women's team because I don't have a women's team. So I could actually root for some of the people on the women's side. So yeah, Edward Waters is not, and they actually support probably of all the teams in the conference, they have been one of the better teams that actually supporting the women's program with their attendance, not just coming at halftime to get a good seat for the men's game.
Good stuff. Good insight in terms of what that looks like. Let's flip it to the men. I know we're a little short on this time, so let's jump in this before we take our last segment and we get into some of the NIA programs at the mid-major level. Staying in the East, if you would, in terms of the SIAC, what teams are getting it done. You have Clark Atlanta doing the double-double, both having a good season in men's and women's basketball. The men sit at 9-5 overall, just like Edward Waters also doing it on both sides. That also sit at 9-5 overall. However, Clark Atlanta sits at 6-1, while Edward Waters sits at 5-2, along with Albany State sitting at 5-2. That is just 8-6 overall in terms of what that looks like. When you look at the last 10 for Clark Atlanta sitting at 7-3, both Edward Waters and Albany State last 10 are at 6-4. When you talk about that last 10, let's include Morehouse at 6-4 as well in terms of the last 10. And they're right there with Albany State sitting at 5-2 in the conference race. So they're just one game back between the leader at Clark Atlanta. And you know, when they get together in the head-to-head matchup, anything goes. So that will obviously be fun on the men's side of things. But you have four teams that are certainly in the mix. All three of them sitting at 5-2. That's Edward Waters, Albany State, Morehouse. So that's fascinating. Let's go ahead and look at all this in the same. So I'll keep going with the West. When you look at Miles, that is really controlling it over there. Their last 10, they're set at 8-2, 10-3 overall, sitting at 7-1 in terms of conference race. The closest team behind them is the rival Tuskegee, sitting at 4-3. That is just 6-7 overall and 6-4. So they played a little better basketball of late when you look at their last 10. But that's a little bit about the SIAC on the men's side. 80 Drew, take it away.
I'm gonna start off. You know, the SIAC, for those who don't know, have been playing cross division. This is the first week where you actually start division play for a lot of these teams. Most people have been playing crossover. Outside of Savannah State and Morehouse, the only other teams that have played divisional matchups are Tuskegee and Kentucky State. And the only reason that those groups have played is because of the HBCU NBA HBCU Classic. So games had to get moved around in the schedule to accommodate Tuskegee and Morehouse going to Oakland. So they had to actually they had to get those games in a little bit earlier than everybody else who's going to open up within their own division this weekend. So Clark Atlanta, well, Miles, who was undefeated till they came to the house, lost, and then beat the number one on the east side Tuesday. Morehouse, who was sitting in second place, defeated Miles. Clark Atlanta loses. We're tied with Clark Atlanta, and then we go down to Savannah State yesterday and lose. So my point is, it's early. Surprise teams, Albany State. Nobody's heard from Albany State basketball in about the last 6-7 years. All of a sudden, they're deciding to get back into the basketball business. Good job down there, Albany State. And then Coach Cabral Huff at Edward Waters is turning that program around so that program is competitive once again. So it's going to be fun. The new SIAC format for the tournament, round one will be on campus. You don't want to be in one of those early games that has to be played right. on road on a campus site.
Right.
And those games are being played on a Saturday.
Right.
So that last Saturday in February, those games are going to be played. So you don't want to have to be one of those teams in that situation. So It's going to be real fun. Savannah State looked a little. They were inspired yesterday, and I'll say this: we were the opponent that lost to them. New coach, previous coach walked away on Monday. Brand new coach on Wednesday. That group rallied around that new
That's
coach.
good.
That group was not going to let that coach lose that game.
First inaugural game. Yeah.
That inaugural game. We did everything. We tried to step on their neck, and they would not let us step on their neck. And like I said, 21 to 23 from the charity strike. Freak 99. It definitely hurt us on yesterday. So good luck down there. Team to watch out for. I think everybody
pretty even.
It's pretty even. You got those 4 teams that are in the East. They're going to be jockeying for position all year. Can Central State in the West get into the mix with the Miles's and Tuskegee's and Kentucky State? That's what. Watch out for Spring Hill though.
I like
Spring Hill can put the ball in the hoop. They can score some points. Can they play enough defense to make a difference?
But all the parity is in the East, is what you're saying.
Say again.
All the parity is in the East,
especially except for Miles. That is the parity in the East is there, but it's like top heavy. It's like half the league. The top teams up there are the parity. And I guess you could say that with the bottom teams, they're parity too. They just happen to be at the bottom. So that's the thing there. One thing I would say before we take this break, so we make sure we can stay on top of it and switch and make sure we give some love to the NIA. I would say this: I like the idea, particularly at the Division II level, with playing those first games at home. It's going to reward those teams that have done it the long haul over the season, in terms of that. And it provides probably less likelihood for upsets, which is important for seeding in terms of the way that the Division II does it when you get multiple teams in the field if you do enough non-conference and have really a totality of the season, which we've seen in the SIEC has been some problems in terms of the upset. So I'm interested in that. Go ahead with your last thought there, AT.
What's going to be interesting, Dr. Cavil, is when you see that team that's host on that Saturday still get on that run that we've traditionally seen in the SIAC. And I'm talking about either on the men or the women's side. Can somebody win their game at home on Saturday?
Right.
Go to the tournament site, beat somebody, especially if you wind up having to play the host seed at the tournament, and there's nothing worse than hosting a tournament while you're not playing after day one. I'm just saying, been there, done that. That's like the worst. But seeing if we can get one of those teams that have to play in, win on home, or even worse, win on the road and really start doing something and still get on that traditional SIAC run that we see every year, where one of those teams that get a bye or the double bye winds up having to go home on day one.
All right, let's take this last break. We'll come back on the other side, talk a little bit of NIA, see if we can do that. 10, 12 minutes to get that in. And before we close out, Charles will allow you to get the updates from the scores before we do our final score. Let's take our last break, bring it back for at least a little bit of NIA. We'll probably stick mostly a little bit of the HBCU AC, and we'll talk about those teams that are really doing well at the NIA program and give you some updates as we come back from this break.
This is Ryan Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Looking for the ultimate cultural experience of 2025? The Zora Outdoor Festival of the Arts is where you need to be. From January 31st to February 2nd, Eatonville, Florida will come alive with incredible live performances from the Levert Experience and the Bar Cave. Immerse yourself in interactive art. Shop from over 80 vendors. Take a journey through history with a new virtual tour app. And enjoy family-friendly STEM activities. Plus, don't miss the unforgettable R&B tribute to the legends, honoring talents such as Whitney Houston, Marvin Gaye, and Luther Vandross. This is more than a festival. It's a celebration of Eatonville's rich cultural heritage. Visit zorafestival.org for tickets.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Cover's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KeaversVoice.com. Cover's Voice, Cover's Voice, CoversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia from She Say Sports. Make sure to check us out every Friday morning at 9 a.m. on Black College Sports Network, YouTube, and Linktree. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, but we have none other than AD Drew. As we get back into it, let me remind everybody again, join the BCSN support of local youth in Oakland, California to see HBCU sports culture in action. A donation of $20 or more will allow BCSN to purchase tickets for a local boy or girl to attend the HBCU NBA Classic on February the 15th. Donate via Cash App. That is $MYJBN MYBCSN. That's MyJBN. Excuse me. Yes, MyJBN, MyBCSN. Let's expose tomorrow's generation to the HBCU culture so that we can keep our HBCU tradition going. Donations will be accepted through January 26th. Shout out to Mr. Roberts. He donated, and I'm certainly going to match his donation up to the $20. He donated over the $20. Shout out to Mr. Roberts for getting that done. With that being said, HBCU AC, it's bigger and better than ever as people realize they have expanded. And so they have two divisions. They have an East division, West division, with the teams getting it done there. Look with the teams at the top, 13-4. Stillman is getting done. They're 8-1 in conference play. They have a 2-conference game lead at this time. Talladega, Alabama is behind them at 6-3 in terms of the conference race. On the West side, you have Dillard. Getting it done at 11-4. They sit at 8-1 in conference play. Similar to the East, you have a team behind them, which is Tougaloo, Mississippi. The Bulldogs sitting at 6-3, 2 games behind Dillard. That's on the women's side of things. Let's look at it in terms of what's going on the men's side as they continue to push forward and get things done. Excited to see HBCU. As they rebranded themselves and expanded the conference. A lot of action going over there when you look at the standings. For that, you still have your east-west side of things. Let's start with the west over here, sitting with Tougaloo, Mississippi, Charles, sitting at 13-4 on the west side of things. Right behind them with a great overall record pretty much as well is 11-5. I'm going to shout out Philander Smith out of Arkansas. They're 13-5. But they've struggled in conference play. They're just 6-4. Still have a chance to get it going, but they had some success in non-conference play, but not so much as they got into action. So who's at the top on the men's side in the West Division? That's Tougaloo. Mississippi is sitting at 8-1 conference-wise. Just behind them, Dillard, 1 game back at 7-2, along with Suno also at 7-2. When you look at it in terms of the East Division, you have a Stillman at 10-6. Getting it done. They sit at 8-1, and the rest of the teams in terms of conference play in the East are really crowded. But when you look at it in terms of Stillman, they have at least a 4-game lead in front of Talladega. But if you talk about Wilberforce, that has lost 6 playing 11 games while Talladega's only played 9. They have a 5-game lead in terms of the loss column. So a little bit of mixture of a little bit of everything going on there. Wanted to get some updates there before we get too far away from it. Let's look at it in terms of what's going on in the Red River athletic side of things with women's basketball, with the HBCUs going over there. Xavier is really getting it done in terms of what's going on with them, seeing if they can stay undefeated. Yes, they are 14-0, 11-0 in conference race. So one team that you want to keep your eyes on, Charles and AD, I know you have AD, is Xavier. Those ladies are playing some good basketball. Anytime a team is undefeated at this point, you got to give them a little love. The next team in terms of HBCU that's in the mix is way down there at 6-5, 7-7. But as well as Xavier is doing overall, they only have a 1-game lead as they are in top of the standings over there for the women in the Red River Athletic Conference. When you talk about it from the men's side, you think you'd have some of the same things going on, what's going on there for the men, as Xavier is having a really good season, 11-2 overall, 10-1. They are even in the loss column, but they're behind 2 games in terms of wins. But they're playing a really solid season. The best HBCU program behind them is actually have a losing record in conference play and a losing record overall. A lot of work to be done in terms of what's going on in that conference. Well, let's get into Langston University in terms of what they do in the Sooner Athletic Conference. This shouldn't surprise you as they continue to put in their work. Langston women sit at 13-1 overall. They are 9-1 in conference play, but they are tied with 2 teams in losses that have a couple more wins in terms of what's going on with the NIA and the Sooner Athletic Conference for the men. Let's look at the men going on. As we talked about last week, Langston surprised a lot of us in some ways as they had 2 early conference losses, but they've gotten it going. They've won 7 straight, Charles, sitting at 12-2 overall. They continue to do what we have seen them done as they've run off those 7 games. They're 8-2 in the conference play. They're actually tied in the loss conference with 1 team sitting above them, but that's what you have with Langston. We'll get into a little bit of Florida Memorial as we'll give you an update there as they're playing some really good basketball in terms of what goes on that side of things. But as we get into what Florida Memorial is doing on the men's side, I want to get your thoughts in terms of what that looks like in terms of their record and schedule, playing some really good basketball as well. With that being said, they sit at 10-4 overall, but they're just 3-2 in the conference place. They have won 3 straight. So with all that in the mix, a lot was going on there in terms of that. We'll give you an update on the women's side of things for Florida Memorial because Chivalry is sure not dead for us in terms of what that looks like from their side of the things as they're playing some pretty good basketball over there too, as they're 5-0 in the conference and sit at 12-1. Gave you a lot of information there from the HBCU AC with some of the top teams. So I'm going to go with you, AD Drew, in terms of NIA first and then come to you, Charles, just to give me your thoughts in terms of what's going on in NAIA. A lot of top teams, Langston, Xavier, Dillard, and Florida Memorial. Of those 4 teams, Drew, who do you think is the best at this point?
If you go by tradition, we on the men or the women's side, first of all.
Women, we're gonna start with women.
I just want to make sure I'm on the same page.
I appreciate it. Yep.
If we just go by tradition, Xavier's women under Bo Browder. I mean, the man only won about 525, 530 games. It might be 550. I lost count, man. Bo Browder got about as many games won as we got episodes out the field. We'll just put it like that.
I like that.
So obviously they're always going to be in the mix, and that's a name you're always going to hear called when it comes Selection Sunday, whether they win their conference or not. Langston, although you got the story with Langston in that Sooner Athletic Conference, I have to go with Florida Memorial slightly above Langston, just because I know how good that conference at Florida Memorial plays in and how that conference is rated. So they're going to get a lot more love at the end of the season if they continue to do what they do. Not saying Langston won't get love. I'm just being realistic. But do we realize that the way these teams are winning this year, we could potentially have more HBCUs in the NAIA tournament than we have in the Division II and the Division I tournament combined?
Yes, so the better basketball is being played at the NAIA level?
I wouldn't necessarily say that the better basketball play is being played there, but the better results are occurring at the NAIA level. We could definitely say that. And there are a couple of those NAIA teams, especially on the women's side, that will beat a D2 and will give some of these lower the mid to lower half Division I teams a good run, if not put one on.
I like the way you put that. Men's side of things, Adrian.
Same thing with the men. You know, we've got some men teams. We're probably, if they continue to win, have as many men teams in the NAIA tournament as we have in the other tournaments combined. Except, for some reason, our men's teams do not get the respect that they deserve when it comes tournament time. It's going to be real interesting to see if the HBCU AC is able to get a third team. They get 2 automatic bids. Will they be able to get a third team? Because right now, Steelman, Tougaloo, handling their business, deserve it. But there are a couple other teams that are there that deserve it. And let me flip back to the women's side. A team like a Dillard is also handling this business on the women's side there. But going back to the men, a lot of good competitive ball. Steelman and Tougaloo played a double overtime thriller in New Orleans back in December. These two teams do not meet again. They
I was surprised when I looked at the schedule. They don't play twice. They rotate every other year.
Yes,
you're exactly right.
Yeah, and I guess because there's so many teams in the HBCU AC, everybody only plays each other one time, it seems like. Right. And then that allows you to go out and play other competition, which is kind of a good bad thing, because if you can play the right competition, you have a good opportunity to build your resume.
That's right.
When it comes to March, pay attention to next week, everybody. The newest NAIA ratings come out. I believe it's on the 15th when the next set of ratings come out. Let's see how much respect our HBCUs are getting when the next set of ratings come out, because record-wise, we know they deserve to be there. What would the conference raters give them when these next set of ratings come out?
Good stuff. With that being said, coming to a close, let me give you an update from the Coastal. Delaware State, as A&T has kind of closed things up a little bit after coming out from the half. They trail by 5, 54-49. That's 15:51 left in the second half. They kind of chop things down going into the halftime, and they put a little more dent into it in the second half. Still have a close one there, but Hampton is leading in the second half as well. They lead by 6. They're up over Campbell 32-26. That's 14:44 left in the second half. Both of those games on Flow Sports. In terms of the women's side, we'll get some final scores from Charles before we close things out. But with that being said, we do have a final for Tennessee State. As they lose by 14, Lindenwood gets it done 68-54 in terms of that matchup. Get a chance to follow and see what the men can do afterwards, as they will be on the road as well. But Charles, give us those final scores and your latest update in terms of SWAC women basketball before we do our final thing.
Sure thing. Got a lot of games here in the third quarter. Texas Southern on top of Mississippi Valley, 49-31. Treasure Thompson, 13-9 thus far in that game. Jackson State and Alabama A&M, they're locked in Donnybrook. 38-36 is your score. Alabama A&M on top of Jackson State. 5:14 to go in the third on that one. And this game is at halftime as the Southern Jaguars are on top of Bethune-Cookman, 36-30 in that game.
Good stuff, good stuff. Great show, great updates. Love that we are able to give some updates for mid-major basketball, both NCAA Division II and NIA, getting it done, both for men's and women's. Thank you for listening inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Yes.
Got to show off this picture.
Nice love. Get my man.
Hey, Josh.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Couple fellas in the house wearing some tiger stripes.
I like it. Thank you for listening inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, come from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and A.D. Drew every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock. So we will look forward to you next week. I missed the last comment. What was that comment that has everybody smiling?
Say that time again, Dr. Cavil. Band talk.
Oh, man, I'm writing you up, sir. Class is being dismissed. You got to get the notes from your friends there. Check it out as we will replay it on BCSN, or you can catch it at your leisure on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube. Last comment there, Charles?
Yeah, happy Founders Day to the men of Phi Beta Sigma, including my late father, Charles Bishop Sr.
I was going to give some love to Roy. I'm glad you did your thing and give him a little push since he's so busy celebrating his Founders Day that he can't even produce the show today. But the men of blue, Raymond as well down there. Fire, Holly, give him some love, and all the members, as you said, of Phi Beta Sigma for the work they do. As we kid because we care. Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, that's Dr. KenyattaCavil, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube and Facebook. Dream big and continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
AD?
Lecture.
Dismiss.
Hey, stay warm, everybody. Please stay warm.
No doubt.